Hello? Is that Dante? No? Well, Nero will have to do for now then. Yes, if something is strange in your neighbourhood, then the only person you can call is somebody from the Devil May Cry series, and they certainly brought their A game here. Capcom's RE engine is back yet again, bigger, badder than ever, and really delivering the goods this generation. It may have taken them a slow start to get the burn, but after the epic title that was Resident Evil 2 Remake, another one is just around the corner. Devil May Cry 5, which takes place just after Devil May Cry 2. Yes, I know, Devil May Cry 2, the one that everybody loved. Okay, admittedly. Now, this game and series has a very long heritage. Right back from the Resident Evil series, right through the generations, Capcom have spun off different titles, and this was really a spin-off from where they wanted to take the Resident Evil series. And on its own, it's become a huge franchise and one of my personal favourites. I absolutely love the Devil May Cry series, even the one that was made by Ninja Theory, even if it wasn't really that great. Let's be honest, it played well, but that's pretty much it. The story and the character was a bit poor, but that's always down for argument and opinion. Anyway, I've covered them all right through the years, and here we are on the latest one. Now, across all console versions, there's no PC demo just yet. We get to take a look at just what the Xbox One S, the PS4, the Xbox One X, and the PS4 Pro deliver with RE engine from Capcom. Is it any better than the original demo I covered in December? Well, it's not really changed that much. There's a little more to the demo, but if you've played that demo, you're not going to see a significant increase in the gameplay at all. There's a few extra bits and a few extra cutscenes, but it really does appetise you for that full release later in March. But let's get to those numbers that everyone's probably here checking out. I did cover the game in a small look at the history back on the previous version, so if you want to know about the gameplay and how it changes, look at that version. But here I'm just going to centre on the visual quality, the resolution and the performance. Getting all those things ticked out of the way, let's dive into the PS4 Pro and the Xbox One X.
Yeah. Hell yeah!
Leaping back into that RE engine, it is yet again delivering the goods, moving up from the MT Frameworks engine which powered all previous Devil May Cry series from Capcom. Remember, the one that come from Ninja Theory was an Unreal Engine title. This here returns us back to 60 FPS, much needed and much lauded in this franchise. Here though, the PS4 Pro falls just a little short of hitting a full native 4K, coming in with a static resolution, I'm not seeing any signs of dynamic solutions here, of 3072 by 1728. That's the count that I get on multiple areas of the game, including heavy combat. Now, this means that the Xbox One X has that advantage, which you may have already seen from my previous analysis. It's still pushing out a full native 3840 by 2160. In addition to this, it also appears to have a slightly better form of anti-aliasing. So the trade-off here is you get a softer image on the X but more stable, and a sharper image but less stable on the Pro. It's not as severe as what I covered on Resident Evil 2, but it certainly is clear that you get a sharper image on the Pro but a less stable image overall. You can also see the bloom lighting is slightly stronger on the X, and that I believe is down to the TAA merging those adjacent pixels and therefore enhancing that bloom lighting. I don't think bloom is stronger on the X, although it could be. I think it's down to the TAA. The short version is it looks great on a 4K screen for both consoles and a 1080p one. But that 56% improvement to pixel count does help increase the image quality on the X, but there might be some trade-offs later in this video. Moving over to the PS4, this comes out at a native 1920 by 1080p, which looks sharp, crisp and clean on a 1080p screen, but obviously jumping between the two versions you can certainly see the reduction in pixel count. The Xbox One S comes out at the same 1920 by 1080p pixel count, but like I said before, this is or possibly is using that reconstruction element, but if it is, it's very, very good, and I can't see the signs, and I have looked here. So there's definitely temporal AA in reconstructing the image and helping that image stability, but I do believe we're looking at a native rendering rate of geometry, and then the pixel shader is cut back, or at least it's dithered far more heavily on the S, and that again is why you see a less sharp image than you do on the PS4 and obviously the Pro and the Xbox One X. Now, the shimmering and the movement and the specular aliasing is obviously more evident, but what you get on the S is a slightly softer image to all the materials and the details overall. Again, unless you're looking at it side by side, it does a very good job at hiding the fact that it isn't really shading at the same level as the PS4, but if it is using that reconstruction element, they've significantly improved it over what we saw in Resident Evil 7, and it doesn't quite look exactly the same as what's going on in Resident Evil 2, but the performance metrics and the image quality do look slightly different, so I am saying that there's some reconstruction element here, or at least some cutbacks, that's making the Xbox One S perform as well as it does, or at least visually. You can certainly see that the AA solution on the PS4 Pro is different to the PS4. Again, that bloom is much stronger on the PS4, just like the Xbox One X. So I suggest this is possibly something to do with the AA solution, which again looks cut back on the S over the PS4. Visually though, they are very close, and if you're not comparing them side by side, I doubt there's much to tell the difference between the two. All of the effects, the particle systems, the lighting, the shadows, everything looks pretty much the same. Obviously that resolution can affect a lot of things, such as the depth of field, which is obviously softer and bigger, more intense on the lower resolution side of the Xbox One S, the PS4, and then the Pro and the X moving up the scale. So all these elements do give you a very similar looking title. What really splits the versions though is performance.
Hell yeah! Whoa! Hell yeah!
Moving into the performance side, we look at the PS4 and the Xbox One S first, and what is completely evident straight away is they don't hold a locked 60 FPS, or at least 16.67 milliseconds, which is the target across all versions. Now the Xbox One S obviously is worse than the PS4, and that's pretty obvious here comparing the two side by side. Certainly in cutscenes it dips even more, but both and all, in fact all versions suffer from those cutscenes, and it hasn't really improved from the original demo that I covered in December on both the X and the S. It's pretty much the same as it was then, give or take, obviously margin of error. So we're not seeing a huge difference between the two, but the PS4 Pro is more consistent over the two. It obviously looks slightly sharper as well, so if you have got one of these two base consoles, then you can expect around 86% of that 60 FPS to be delivered, whereby the Xbox One S is around 75%. Again, this points to the fact that I'm saying that doesn't seem to stack up with the actual visual quality, so there's certainly something going on here behind the scenes to make up that deficit between the two machines. But the results are actually very close indeed between the two, so there's not a lot to split. Even if you are looking for that better quality of visuals, then performance-wise the PS4 has the Xbox One S beat, with a more consistent delivery of to the tune of around 10% or 6 FPS in frame rate money. But what does the extra money buy you on the premium side of the fence? We'll take a look in a moment.
You're great. Yeah, get up hard, get up hard you want.
So, reversing what we saw with the X and its resolution output, 56% is quite a lot, certainly more than the actual metrics stack up in terms of the hardware deficit that the PS4 Pro has over the X, and that materialises in the performance side. We see the Pro delivering around 90% of its target of 60 FPS. It's very consistent overall, but performance-wise it can dip quite heavily in the real-time cinematics, and the X dips more. That only delivers around 82%. There's not a lot in it, but the average frame rate between the two, in close as I can get like for like, 54 FPS to 49 FPS, give or take. So that means you get a more consistent performing title on the Pro, ever so slightly over what you get on the X. But in truth, both versions don't hold as close to that 60 FPS target as I would like. It's certainly not a game breaker on any version. It feels smooth and consistent overall, but you can feel that judder and stutter sometimes when you're playing the game in that controller input, and it's better on the premium consoles than the base consoles, but neither of them or any of them hit a locked 60 FPS. It certainly performs worse in the real-time cutscene, so that really isn't a problem, but in gameplay you can get heavier meteor moments with lots of pyrotechnics, particle systems, explosions, and all that beautiful destruction that the game uses. There's so many elements in this game of knocking down buildings, destroying cars, breaking through tables, and smashing through objects and scenery. I really like the fact they've taken that dismemberment system from Resident Evil, but they've pushed it into the scenery here. So I'm looking forward to seeing how that plans out in the final game, but certainly in this demo, I love the amount of destruction available. But if you are looking for a lot 60, then you may have to wait to see what that PC version offers up. And that's the end of another video. I hope you like this quick look at the Devil May Cry series and what it delivers on all 4 consoles, and I'll be back soon at launch to look at the game in even more depth. But if you are interested in more game analysis, then please stay tuned to my channel tomorrow, where I'll have a full look at the Division 2 across all console versions and just how it performs. If you enjoyed this or anything else that I put together, then please like, share where appropriate, and subscribe to support what I do here and the channel itself. I am part-time, remember. If you want to chat to me about this or anything else in terms of games, rendering, or anything you want to talk about on the technical side, then you can follow me over on Twitter. But for now, I'm off to just see if Dante is really hidden away in this demo somewhere, or we have to wait until the full release. I'll catch you on the next one.
Out of the way!